Austin, Texas, in the year 1884, was a city of strange contradictions. By day, it was a bustling frontier capital, filled with the scent of cedar, horses, and the sweat of 1,000 laborers building the grand Texas state capitol. But as the sun dipped behind the hills, the city transformed. A peculiar purple haze would settle over the horizon, a phenomenon the locals called the Violet Crown. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And in the winter of 1884, it became a shroud. You have to understand the isolation of this time. There were no streetlights as we know them. Once the sun went down, the city was swallowed by a blackness so thick you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. People relied on the moon, or the flickering orange glow of a kerosene lamp. In this darkness, a man, or a monster, began to move. He didn't come with a shout or a gunshot. He came with a silence that seemed unnatural. On New Year's Eve, while the rest of the city toasted to a new year of progress, the midnight assassin claimed his first victim. Her name was Mollie Smith. She was a cook, a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, sleeping in a small wooden cabin behind her employer's mansion. The killer didn't just break in, he glided. He bypassed locked doors and windows as if they didn't exist. He struck with a heavy axe. But the horror didn't end there. He used sharp, thin objects to pose the body in a way that suggested a ritual, a dark message left for the city to find. The most terrifying part? The guard dogs. The Hall family owned fierce dogs that would snarl at any stranger. That night, they didn't make a sound. It was as if the killer was a ghost, or perhaps someone they knew. The police were desperate. They arrested Mollie's boyfriend, a man named Walter Spencer. They beat him until he bled, forcing a confession for a crime he didn't commit. They thought the nightmare was over. They were wrong. As 1885 progressed, the bodies began to pile up. Eliza Shelley, Irene Cross, and then, the most heartbreaking of all, Mary Ramey. She was only 11 years old, snatched from her bed in the dead of night. The city of Austin fell into a state of great panic. Business owners locked their doors at 4 p.m. Men patrolled their front porches with Winchesters across their laps. Any man seen walking the streets after dark was likely to be shot on sight. The trust that holds a community together was rotting away. The city council decided they needed a radical solution. They spent a king's ransom to build the Moonlight Towers, 17 iron giants, 165 feet tall, casting a cold electric glare over every alleyway and backyard. They wanted to murder the darkness itself, but even under the glare of the new lights, on Christmas Eve, 1885, the assassin struck his most famous blow. He attacked 2 wealthy homes on opposite sides of the city simultaneously. He proved that no amount of light could stop a man who truly belonged to the shadows. And then, as quickly as the bloodbath began, it ended. The Christmas Eve massacre was the finale. The killer vanished. The Texas Rangers arrived to find a cold trail and a city paralyzed by trauma. But 3 years later, in 1888, the city of London began to scream. Jack the Ripper had arrived in Whitechapel. Historians have long pointed to a suspect named Maurice. He was a Malay cook who lived in a boarding house just blocks away from where the Austin victims died. Records show that Maurice boarded a ship and left Texas just after the last murder. He arrived in London just before the first Ripper victim was found. The similarities are too precise to be a coincidence. The poses, the surgical knowledge, the way both killers seemed to vanish into thin air. Did the midnight assassin simply trade the dust of Texas for the fog of London? Today, the Moonlight Towers still glow over Austin. They are the only ones left in the world. Beautiful, historic, and born from a year of pure terror. If you ever stand beneath one, look at the long shadows they cast. Some secrets are meant to stay hidden.